morning. I'm using my broken selfie stick here to make this video. Hopefully I can hold it steady for a minute. I was having a back and forth this morning with somebody on social media, and it was about the nature of using AI as a study aid for A Course in Miracles. And there's lots of study aids that you can employ, but you're being encouraged to develop or rekindle your relationship with the Holy Spirit as your internal guide, and to learn to listen to that guidance regarding anything that seems to be disturbing, concerning, upsetting, difficult, hard to understand, with regards to your atonement, which is inclusive of the period of mind training that you go through using the text and workbook of A Course in Miracles. The whole point of the course is to reawaken your power, which you have been externalizing on other people's situations and things as a way to get through life, rather than listening to your own internal guidance and living in faith. And this is exactly like the same thing. It's no different. If you're externalizing your sense of understanding anything to do with the divine and celestial order of life that you're part of, using temporal references and temporal assistance, even this video, you're missing the whole point. I guess the only difference about this video is that it's telling you you're missing the whole point. So, of course, AI is very handy. I mean, you have let's say you're a new student, you pick up the book, it's hard going, it's wordy, it's concepts that have nothing to do with the reality in the spatial awareness you find yourself, and you wonder, how will I ever do this? And the mind is always looking for an easier way, like just use AI, or just get an app, or just join a Zoom group, or just do something. You know, we have a Zoom group as well, but in that Zoom group, I'm constantly advocating for everyone who participates not to give any credibility or credence. I mean, call no man master, not to listen to me. I'm only ever telling you that, and I'm only ever bringing you back around to this point here and now, where you're totally responsible to yourself for your own atonement. That's the only, if you're looking outside at me, I'm pointing you back inside at you. If you're looking outside at me, I'm pointing you back inside at you. That's only going to be helpful if you truly do understand and truly do have some sense that the kingdom of heaven is within you, and you have to find it by yourself. You have to do the work. You have to make that connection with the Holy Spirit and continue to foster it as an idea of learning higher to lower communication, not seemingly internal and external AI to human being communication. There is a massive difference. And the tendency, it's like kids in high school, and they want to cheat. They have cheat notes rather than depend on what they already know, because somewhere you do already know that you're whole and perfect as you were created. They have little notes, or they have AI that tells them, you're whole and perfect, dear one. And that's simply transcending or bypassing the actual work that you have to do. I know it's modern and everybody's into it, and AI is like the latest thing. But try to understand that this technology is before AI. This connection that you have, this line, direct phone line, if you want to look at it like that, to God that you have through the Holy Spirit, is inclusive of all attempts to make that connection, including AI, but also is transcendent or beyond those attempts. Like, all of those things are just temporary. They bring you to a certain point of here, bringing a finger on your nose. And the sooner that you can learn to let go of external dependency, as far as thinking that there's somebody or something out there that can help you, the better. Otherwise, what happens is you fall into this kind of trap, and you replace external dependency as a human being seeking for fulfillment on a human level to a spiritual level, where you seem to be somebody looking for spiritual fulfillment, but you're still looking out there in the wrong place. You're still taking your advice and your guidance from the external framework, and it may have nothing to do with, and more than likely has nothing to do with, the kind of direction and advice and guidance that you're going to get from the Holy Spirit. This whole thing of understanding the course, it comes about through the workbook. It's like in the introduction to the workbook, Jesus says, some of the ideas this workbook contains you may not understand. Some you may disagree with, and some you may actively resist. And none of that matters. It is the doing of the lessons, the application of the lessons, that will show you that they are true. Right? You have to do the work. If you don't understand what's written in the text, if you don't understand the lessons, just keep going. Right? You're learning to have faith. You're learning to be miracle-minded, not AI-minded. You're learning to be miracle-minded. I've even seen, like, those angel cards, you put them in a bowl and every day pull one out and it's your oracle for the day. I've even seen Course in Miracles cards like that, and people are printing now coffee mugs with Course in Miracles sayings on them and t-shirts and shit. I mean, what the fuck? You can justify anything any way you want with this Course in Miracles, but unless you're actually making, it's like the Bible, people can use it as a weapon, But that's only people that don't understand the message. Ignorant people. You have to make that connection, that higher to lower connection. You have to activate yourself. When you read the lines of the text, if you don't understand it, just recognize, Jesus understands this, I don't understand this, therefore one of us has a lien on truth regarding this, and the other one is in the dark. If you're in the dark, ask for help about it from where the help is told that it is given through the Holy Spirit to you to help you understand. And I guarantee you anyway that if you were to keep reading a few more lines on, you will find that it all starts to make sense later on down the track. And the other thing is, and this is in our Zoom meetings, this is a common thing that I pick up on with pretty much everybody, right? At least at the beginning. We do a round robin reading event, which is the simple and the small little reviews of the first 50 lessons of the course. And we do that, well, we used to do it almost every session, but it's very helpful because you're constantly in that kind of setting, having new people turning up, and it becomes a little time consuming to have to explain everything to everybody all the time. So just to do those reviews and read them in a round robin way is very helpful. But what happens is when, and I'll just say people, when minds, people read these things, they're not really connecting, right? And I use the example, if you were a student in high school and you had an exam the next day and you had to study, you would really study. You would put your effort into focusing, into connecting with what the material is. You would make it your own. You would absorb it. But most people just tend to read things as if they're reading a magazine whilst they're waiting for a bus or something. And they just you put the book down, you don't even know what you've read really. Oh, something about miracles or something about some movie star or, like whatever. There has to be an integrity, and that may require prayer as well. Help me, Lord, to even read these words on this page. Help me to understand what I'm reading and to connect with it beyond the words, because the message is delivered through the symbols, which are the words, but it's the message itself that you need to connect with in order to understand it, in order for the words to make sense about the subject matter that they are alluding to. And they are always alluding to the miracle, because you can't just come out and say what a miracle is. There is a set of definitions in the beginning. There's a set of principles of miracles. But when the miracle happens to you, and it will, you won't understand how it happened at all. You'll be very, very glad it happened, but you won't understand how it happened. I guarantee you. And if you can understand, then it's not a miracle. It's literally a miracle because there's no explanation for it. That's why it's called a miracle. So just be aware of that. Like, there's a kind of a spectrum of readiness and awareness and an ability to hear this. Jesus says you have ears to hear, but you have ears but do not hear, and eyes but do not see. And that's absolutely true. And there are I don't know what you would call it. I don't want to use the word hierarchy, but there's a kind of a hierarchy or a kind of a order. Order is a much better word. Hierarchy is a terrible word. But there is an order to the process of your awakening that is divine. And if you find yourself picking up this Course in Miracles book and you haven't read other books before, like Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, or even Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach, if you haven't read all of these things, and if you're not somebody who's been participating in groups and meditation circles and things like that, then it's going to be a lot more difficult, there's going to be a bigger bridge to cross to be able to go straight from walking in off the street, let's say, to comprehending the full nature of the atonement. And not always. I mean, I'm tarring everyone with the same brush there, but I'm just trying to make a generalization. I mean, there are those people, and I have a few in our Zoom meeting who they turn up and they're like, the world has nothing for me. And they're ready. I know they're ready. There's a place in their mind where they look at the world and they can see that there's nothing there. But for most people, that takes a series of teaching, learning, relationships where you realize how pointless it all is, because you just die at the end of it, to give it any kind of practical reference and practical meaning to you, why you would want to undergo this death of the ego, this Course in Miracles, this mind training. I've been to Course in Miracles groups supposedly Course in Miracles groups, where people use tarot cards and crystals and all that external sort of stuff. I mean, if you're not done with that, you're never going to hear this message. You've got to see that everything you involve yourself in the world is a stage. It's a step. And you leave one step behind to go to the next step. If you're into all that sort of stuff, you've got to leave that behind to go to the next thing, because Jesus, who's the author of the Course, by the way, and the head of the atonement, is telling you the kingdom of heaven waits for no man. If you still have any concerns about trying to sort out what you think your life ought to be about and look like here through tarot cards or divination with crystals or those pendulum doodahs and all of that sort of stuff, which is ultimately nonsense. It's just magic and Course in Miracles coffee cups. I mean, what the fuck? I'm getting a bit passionate about this now. But it's like, come on, snap out of it. All right? The kingdom of heaven is within. Anything, AI, coffee cup, tarot card, fucking you name it. The horoscopes in the newspaper, maybe, all of that. Forget about it. Forget about it. You're already perfect. You are already perfect. You are a child of God. You are a divine being, and you do have a true connection with your source, and that is activated and perpetuated and you receive guidance from it, through it, etc., by the grace of the Holy Spirit, or the Spirit of wholeness, which is the gift of God to you, is something within you already, and all you got to do is activate it by wanting it. It's like, I want that. And to want what you already have isn't really wanting, it's just a simple kind of an acceptance of the fact that, yes, that's what I'm about. That's it for me. So I haven't even had my first coffee yet. Getting all excited about this. One of the other things that's happening, a really cool thing for if you're in America, brother Gregory Sacra, who also does a Zoom thing on a Sunday, I think, and maybe even a midweek one. He does a sort of a more traditional ceremonial sort of thing on a Sunday, from what I understand, and something during the week. Tyna, who is the facilitator for our Zoom group, and Gregory are going to be getting together to organize a physical, and it'll be free of charge, a physical, I mean, you'll have to pay for your accommodation if you're coming from somewhere and your own food and everything, but the actual presentation is going to be free of charge. Organizing a 2, possibly 3-day intense encounter with the principles of the course in a meditative way, which we've sort of coined doing a light session, where anyone who is keen to participate in that and experience the communicative power of mind to mind, or not really mind to mind, but experience that all minds are joined, right, can go along and begin to enter into that circle of involvement, circle of devotion, and have that experience. Now, the thing that I find about having that experience, and we recently had a 3-day thing here, it was a 2-day thing that sort of spilled over into 2.5, almost 3 days. The thing that I find, and it's always been the way over the last 30 years, I guess, 25, 30 years of, 25, let's say 26 years, just for argument's sake, of conscious Course in Miracles involvement, is that generally, not always, generally, it is easier for people to involve themselves and say yes to stepping into a circle of like-minded beings in a light session if they've been through the Course in Miracles workbook, right? So because it's in doing the workbook that something else occurs in the mind, and you begin to activate yourself to a sensitivity of not only your internal connection, but an awareness with the oneness of all things and the holiness of all things, which transfers to include to everyone that joins with you in the idea of doing a light circle meditation. Generally, it's a standing up meditation with some nice music on. And personally, if there are new guys in the room that haven't experienced it before or are quite new at experiencing it, I'll go around and do a bit of a hands-on and a talking, talk people through it with regards to letting go, being still, entering in, and not being afraid of whatever emotional energy might come up, the metaphysical side of it, because a lot of that does happen. You do get a lot of metaphysical sort of stuff goes on. The one that we had recently here, we had Deb, for example, who is always in our Zoom meetings, and there's a givenness, I don't know if that's a word. There's just this sort of sense of things when you open your mind like that. I can find anyone in my mind pretty much, because everyone is me. And look, if I'm looking for, it's like an echolocation almost. But when I looked for Deb in my mind, she was ready. There was this readiness. There's a stepping in to say yes, but with an uncertainty of how that comes about. And I simply put my hands on Deb, and she collapsed to the floor, and the activation of the light code, I guess, the light sequence within her that was necessary to begin or perpetuate whatever the stage of her awakening is that she's at, it began to occur, and she began to have convulsions in the body and all sorts of weird stuff going on. Right? That's perfectly normal, and you shouldn't be concerned about it or upset about it. A light session is not something there to go along to just so you can see what all these strange people are doing, because from the outside it does look kind of strange. But it's kind of a next level up. If you've ever been to like a Pentecostal church and everyone's got their arms in the air and they've got the music going, woo, Jesus, you know, and all that. It's kind of the next level up from that. And for that, I mean, for some people, even going into a church, an official kind of church gathering like that can be kind of confronting. People talking in tongues and all sorts of crazy shit going on there. But, you know, it's all beautiful. It's all about love. So that's going to be happening. We're not exactly sure where yet. It's probably going to be in Madison somewhere in the United States. And I would guess around the middle of the year, around June, July. But there will be more on that as we go along. So I'll make other videos. And if you're on my Facebook page, which is Dave Phare, Phare, you'll be able to track along with what's going on. All right, that's about it. There's a lot in this video. Just remember, it's not about finding an external teacher. I mean, you may use me, you may use... But any good teacher is going to tell you, put your finger here and don't take it off there. This is a singular journey. I've come back from the completion of my singular journey into time at the point where I previously left or awakened from in its totality, come back reutilizing this avatar whilst it's still got time in it to present a whole new message. Right, to present a whole new way of beginning to look at the world and life, the universe and everything that perhaps never occurred to you before. But once you begin to involve yourself in understanding the nature of the message, it will start to seem very, very familiar, I promise you. All right, I love you guys. And we've got a cyclone bearing down on us due to hit today or tomorrow, I think. Today's Wednesday. I think probably tomorrow from my memory of the news article. But so I'm not going to be on social media for a little bit. No doubt there's going to be work in the community needed, helping clear trees and things once this thing passes. But this is my fourth cyclone, so I kind of know what to expect. And if you're listening to this from within the parameters where the cyclone's going to hit in Australia, my advice to you is simply this. Have a plan B. Know where your evacuation centre is. Make sure you've got enough drinking water to last you 3 or 4 days. Make sure you've got candles and everything. The power will more than likely go out. Keep all your stuff in the strongest room in the house, usually the bathroom. If you live in a flood zone, put things in garbage bags, tie them tightly, double bag them if you need to, so that if you get water in the house, these things float. Try to put everything up as high as possible. If you live in a really silly little fibro house, because people down here are not used to cyclones, this is kind of a rare thing, and houses are not built to cyclone standards like they are in North Queensland, where I come from. You probably want to look at an idea of moving temporarily or overnight. We used to book a hotel. We had a timber house, but we used to book a hotel room in the big brick hotel, and put the house in order and then get the hell out of there before it hits. Anyway, that's just from my 3 cyclones experience. Actually, what I don't like telling stories for the sake of storytelling, but it is pretty funny. One of my cyclones that hit, I was on a 52-foot water taxi in the middle of the Whitsunday Passage, and a 1.5 hour journey took 4.5 hours, and there was a 7-meter swell, and I had never been so ill in my whole life. And I was just telling Tyna that story this morning. I think it was the worst. There was not enough vomit bags. But I lived to tell the story. There you go. Dream within a dream. All right, I love you guys. Peace.